We are here to talk about one of the biggest, most expensive, most human challenges that we face in our industry, fleet safety, and how to actually protect and coach our drivers. Now, we all know that the stakes are incredibly high. A single major crash can completely wipe out your fleet, not only financially, operationally, personally. It has so many dynamics. And we've seen so much of this behavior actually tied to the human behavior. So our focus really has to shift. And for too long, we've had all of this data, but it's very siloed. We have telematics here and video there. It really makes it hard to coach and actually prevent accidents. So today we are cutting through that complexity. We're going to show you how to move from an outdated rules-based compliance to genuine proactive coaching culture that actually respects the driver. Geotab is the global leader in connected transportation and asset tracking solutions with over 5.5 million subscribers. In our heavy trucking space, we have over 1.2 million vehicles on the road just in North America. Geotab is a data and engineering company that processes a wealth of data to our customers. Over 80 billion data points are processed daily. And we help to turn that data into actionable insights to actually help businesses make informed decisions to keep their drivers safe and stay compliant with the ever-growing regulations. So I'm Emily Williams. I will be your host today. I'm head of transportation business development here at Geotab. I am thrilled to introduce our expert, Claude. He is one of the industry's most respected voices on AI and safety coaching. And Claude, I know you've been active in the video and AI industry for more than 20 years. You've worked for General Electric, for Schneider Electric, for Bosch and Europe, Middle East, and Asia Pacific. And most notably, you were involved in large complex CCTV and access control systems and landmark projects for the Paris subway, the new Doha International Airport, Heathrow, Thompson, and Singapore, so many things. And most recently, you became the head of products of Smarter AI. And Smarter AI is an AI dashcam technology, which was recently acquired by Geotab. So Claude, thank you so much for joining. I appreciate your time.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you guys are. So I'm Claude. Jorge, that's my family name. Don't worry at all if you cannot pronounce it. I cannot do that either in the morning. So I need a coffee before I can actually do that.
Yep.
So I'm really happy to be here with you. So after Smart AI has been acquired by Geotab, I'm now taking care of video within Geotab. So they gave me this title of Principal Video Program Manager. But basically, I'm helping Geotab with video. It's very exciting to be here and to be working with you, Emily.
Yes.
So today, we have some interesting topics for you guys. So we would like to understand how to transform your fleet, specifically regarding to safety management, as well as safety culture. And safety culture is super important for us and for me, and how dashcam can actually help you doing this. So we really don't want you to see dashcam as a surveillance system. It's really a way to empower your drivers through insights and measurable results. So that's really what we want to do.
Yes, that's awesome. And let's talk about the challenge. So you have this slide up, which is staggering, very, very interesting statistics here. And this is nothing new to the trucking industry, right? We know that there's nuclear verdicts are very much real. Every fleet can face a huge risk from just a single accident, and it can truly erase years of profitability. I've seen personally fleets like literally being wiped out through just one accident. So I think despite all of that technology, we are still seeing a huge percentage, up to 95%, it looks like it's showing that data, of collisions stemming from human error. So that means that our biggest safety challenge isn't just mechanical. We can't just throw technology at it and hope it helps, right? It's actually the driver behavior. And I think that gives us an opportunity for prevention. So Claude, walk us through some of these stats and some of the data behind that and really kind of help me understand, how high are the stakes today for fleets?
I mean, it's really high. I'm just going to give you three little data points that for me are super important. So first, the literature is telling us that more than 4,000 people die every year in the US when a large truck is involved. And, probably every week, every 2 weeks, you can see on your feed Twitter a crash, involving a large truck. And that's really horrible. So if we can reduce this, that's really a massive win. The second thing is the cost of crashes where you have a fatality. And now it's quite common to see verdicts above $10 million. That includes, the cost for the company, the downtime, the litigation cost, everything and anything. The other day I was discussing with a large customer of ours, and they said that they are aware of a 3-digit verdict in million, which is gigantic. Right. So this is really costing a lot of money, and that can bankrupt your fleet and your company. And then finally, we always speak about death, and death are terrible and tragic, but we should also speak about people getting injured. And this number that we found, about more than 300,000 people are getting injured in accidents involving a distracted driver. It really shows that distracted driving is basically becoming an epidemic in the US and the Western world, and actually everywhere on the planet. So it's really a big problem for people around us, but more than just a safety concern. It's a business problem. It affects your profitability, your driver morale, your customer trust. If your name is on the paper or on the news because you had a really bad accident, that can be very bad.
Yeah.
So let's have a deeper look at this problem. Let's see if there are any solutions. Let's see if these solutions have impact on these fleets.
That sounds good. Yeah. And I know, obviously being in the industry for many years, like distracted driving is truly a silent killer. And I've heard that distracted driving is about the same level or even worse, as if from a risk standpoint, as if you're driving drunk. Would you agree with that, Claude?
I do agree. Yeah, we see a lot of evidence right now, a lot of people
Yeah.
that have done studies that are showing that. And it's about the likelihood of you having an accident if you're drunk, or if you're basically using your phone, or if you're distracted. But today it's mostly phone usage. And it decreases your reaction time. So when you're drunk, your reaction time is much higher.
Yeah.
You also take more risks quite often. But with your phone, it's the same thing. And if you have your nose on your phone, your reaction time is basically infinite when you have your nose on your phone. And that's what makes it so dangerous.
Mhm.
And when we have a look at what are actually the causes of collision today, you really have three things. You have distraction that we talked about. Fatigue is another big problem. People getting tired, or people having some health issues or things like that, and also risky habits. Driving aggressively, tailgating, and all those kind of things. And that's really I would say, the unholy trinity that we see happening in this industry. So I've added some videos here from some customers that, of course, agree that we share this video with you guys. And you can see that phone use is really a plague. People use that all the time, and without having a camera inside a vehicle, it's very difficult to not have people use their phone, because you can tell them as much as you want, it's going to be very difficult. And even if you use traditional telematics solutions today to monitor if you driving harshly, acceleration, cornering, and braking, you will not tackle distraction. It's not something that you can do. What works very well is when you can give drivers feedback. And for that, dash cams are great because they add context. First, they can basically tell you, hey, on the spot, do not use your phone, reminding drivers not to do that. And then afterwards, you can have a discussion with them. You can explain why, and then you can make sure that it's enforced. And for me, when you have that, you preempt problems, and by preempting problems, you basically shift from blaming people after an accident, right, to make sure that they learn and they are safe and they get empowered before that. So it's a culture change, and I think this term culture is really important here, because you really want to have a safety culture. It's not about the wag of the finger; is to make sure that everybody's empowered and is responsible to reduce accidents and to get rewarded, and we're going to see that a bit later on.
Yeah, that's important. So we see that the majority of these accidents are truly rooted in that human behavior. We have to address that. Rules alone, that's what I'm hearing from you. Rules alone just can't fix this. So as a fleet manager and as a safety leader, Claude, how do we switch that mindset from like, I'm hitting you over the head and I got you, which is definitely the mindset of many fleets in the industry, and it's focused on this punishment. How do we transform that punishment to an actual safety culture that you're mentioning, where drivers do feel like I'm appreciated and I'm recognized and I trust the technology and I'm going to take ownership of my own behavior? How do we make that shift?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. So first, rules and checklists are important, right? You want to make sure that people continue doing this, and there's a good reason to have a rules and checklist. But that's not sufficient on its own. If you want to reduce risk, to create a great safety culture, right, you need to make sure that the outcome of what drivers do is actually recognized. If you make an effort to drive safely, do not tailgate, do not use your phone, promote safety habits, people are recognized for that, and people need to be responsibilized for this, right? We should not infantilize drivers. We tell them, right, you're driving a vehicle. A vehicle is a big piece of metal, which can be thrown at 60, 70 miles an hour, and it's your responsibility to make sure that it's safe. And if you implement this safety culture, if you use video transparently, right, making sure that everybody is aware of how it's used, everybody's aware of what happens, who can view what, it builds trust. People understand that, people get valued, people get coached, people improve. And, it's not something that drives fear. It's really something that empowers a great working environment for drivers and for companies.
That's good. Empowerment. I like that. So let's talk about dash cams because you've mentioned that a couple times. I get this question a lot from customers that are checking out technology that have used telematics. They have telematics in their fleet, but they are interested in learning more about how a dash cam can actually help them. And one of the things that we see in telematics is, I'll give harsh braking as an example. So if I have a fleet that goes, okay, I have this driver and he was doing harsh braking and I saw 50 harsh braking events today. How do you actually coach that? Can AI dash cams help to provide some context? And then another question for you, Claude, as we kind of dive into this, how do you not become overwhelmed with that data? Like, how does a fleet manager actually filter out what's important? What do I need to coach on? And bring that holistic picture together?
Of course. So the first thing is, what does a dash cam do for drivers and for fleet? So for me, for driver, and maybe we don't speak about that enough, as a driver, having a dash cam recording what happens, of course, in the cabin, but also in front of your vehicle is super important, because pretty often, if you drive well, if you're responsible, pretty often it's not your fault. Other people do a lot of crazy things, dangerous stuff, and you want to make sure you can protect yourself by having a recording of, what's happening in case of a crash or in case of anything else. And having a dash cam that works well, that has all the right features, really helps and protect drivers. So that's basically one thing. The second thing is, a dash cam will give you a real-time in-cabin coaching for specific behaviors, right? If you use your phone, if you smoke, if you eat, if you drink, if you don't wear your seatbelt, but also if you tailgate, if you cross, double lines and things like that. So it's a tool that helps driver understand what they should do and they should not do, and also sometimes it helps them to have a better understanding of what they should do and should not do. I'll give you an example: tailgating. So for quite a lot of people, tailgating is difficult to evaluate. Am I too close? Am I not close enough? If I'm not close enough, another person will actually cut me off. All those kind of things. When you have a dash cam, it really helps you to understand, hey, you have someone that helps you driving and shows you, hey, here you're too close, here that's actually a good distance, right? So that's really fosters, responsibility. Driver self understand what happens. The next thing that dash cam are very good at doing is, on top of having the live in-cab coaching, is it enables driver coaches and managers to have a discussion regularly with their drivers. So we call that, a coaching session. And that's something that can happen, every day, every week, every month. That's basically really up to the fleet to do that. Maybe you don't coach all drivers, you only coach certain drivers, or, depending on how well they progress or not. And that's really up to you. But these are really the three things that you can do with an AI dash cam that really helps you to drive, a safety culture, decrease accident, decrease bad behaviors or dangerous behaviors. And if you do that fairly, if you do that openly and transparently, it's really something that drivers appreciate, once this is put in place.
That's great. So let's talk a little bit about what Geotab has for dash cams. So for those of you that know Geotab and have been working with us for a while, we are the champion of an open platform, and we offer fleets a variety of different solutions. We know that all fleets are so different. They don't operate the same. And so we have, last time I checked on our marketplace, like over 35 different camera providers that we work with to build deep integrations and actually pull in their camera technology. Most recently, at the beginning of this year, we made a really strategic decision to provide another option to fleets, and that was by launching our GoFocus and our GoFocus Plus. And so, Claude, I would love your thoughts on this, because something I hear a lot from fleets is, I want one single source of truth, right? I want that data to be integrated, whether it be with GoFocus or with another camera provider. How do you pull everything together, and what kind of level of additional insight can they get with a camera that just simply wasn't there before?
Of course, so it's my pleasure to speak about GoFocus Plus. It's a bit of my product, so I'm really happy to discuss that here with you and all the audience. So GoFocus Plus is an AI dash cam with two images, a road camera and a driver-facing camera. It exists in a version with only a road camera for people that are privacy conscious, and it has an edge AI processing, so meaning that everything that happens, all the detections are happening at the edge, even if you don't have any cellular coverage, right? And it detects automatically distraction and aggressive driving and all these kind of things. So GoFocus Plus has been integrated very deeply within my Geotab, and it gives a very interesting capability in my Geotab, meaning that you can, on top of that, you can use the dash cam for fleet safety, but you can also use the dash cam for additional telematic use cases, and we're going to speak about that a bit later on. So it's a fully integrated system. And one big difference between GoFocus Plus and other solutions out there in the market, on top of the quality of the AI, many companies will claim that they have the best AI quality. Of course, we claim that too. But this is a little bit different. So one thing which is very interesting is, as a driver coach or as a manager, one of your role will be to identify the drivers that need to be coached. And to do this, you need to understand what are the events that you need to show to a driver, the relevant event to coach the driver upon, right? And quite often you have to go through 100 or 1,000 events to find the right events, because you don't want to coach a driver on going through a rolling stop at 2 miles an hour. Of course, it's not good, but it's not as bad as tailgating at 120 miles an hour on a motorway by using your phone and sleep. So that's really what we are trying to do here. So we have a lot of tools and techniques that help coaches and drivers do this. So the first is, how can you get access very quickly and rapidly to the most interesting events per driver? And we have different technologies to rank those events using a method that we call magnitude. It's a form of severity, if you wish. And all these events will be available to you straight away. So you will not have to browse through thousands of events. All the right events that you can coach are already pre-selected for you. The second thing is, you will need to go through these events and have a look to understand what are these events about. And with our technology, you don't even have to open an event to actually understand what's happening. You will see a nice snapshot of the worst possible moment of that event, right? So if someone is tailgating, you're going to see that when you're the closest to the vehicle in front of you. And you have a small reel of about 2 seconds before, 2 seconds after the speak. So you have the context. And that's really something that looks a bit like YouTube. So on YouTube, if you browse on videos, you will see those little thumbnails, and you will see a small video being played, showing you a teaser of the video. We are basically doing something very, very similar here. And that's something that our customers really, really like. So saving time and giving them a very quick overview of what's happening within their fleet. The second thing is, we see that some people, they want to go further. They want to understand what are the trends, what is happening, how is it working, and going basically deeper than just what we provide. So we have a lot of different things that we provide for this, but one interesting topic that we have the time to discuss here is something that we call patterns. So we can understand and show you patterns. So what a pattern is if you do something and then something else after. So here I have an example of someone being distracted and tailgating at the same time. And why are we interested in this is because we see a lot of people on their phone having a near collision or having a collision, right? So you're distracted, and this distraction leads to something bad. Or you're at the same time, driving too fast and cornering too harshly and not paying attention. So all these kind of things are, I would say, even worse events that you need to coach drivers upon. And you need to understand if you see some trends in some drivers, and the system allows you to do this very, very quickly.
So a question that has come in, this is a great question. Where is GoFocus Plus at with the pedestrian alerts? That's very important.
Okay, so today GoFocus Plus doesn't detect pedestrians, but we will have this feature coming up pretty soon. And at Connect, we're going to have some additional announcements regarding cameras and pedestrian detection. So that's something which is coming, and I encourage you guys to come to Connect. But I think, Emily, you can have some words about that a bit later on in the presentation.
Of course I will, Claude. You know how I am. So yes, wonderful. So it's coming. That's great to know. Okay, so you have some really good case studies here, and I am all about action. We can talk all day long, but if we don't actually show, the proof is obviously in the results. So Claude, can you walk us through some of these real world examples and how the AI and video telematics is really helping to improve ROIs for fleets?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and what I've done here is I've selected one case study that we've done with a customer, which I think is quite interesting. So it's a relatively large fleet in the US. They have a few thousand vehicles. And they had a problem where they had a lot of crashes, they had a lot of accidents, and they could not bring that down. So they've tried a lot of things, and nothing was working. So then they realized that they needed cameras. So they've piloted a few camera systems, among them GoFocus Plus. And they have actually created an interesting pilot, and I think we have a lot to learn from this. So first, they deployed about 15 vehicles with cameras. It might be a lot, but for them it was not big. But if you want to do that yourself, 5 or 2 or 3 or 10 is a good number as well. So they deployed 15 vehicles with cameras, and they ran this pilot for 3 months. So during the first month, the cameras were working, but they were not doing anything. So they were just calculating a baseline, understanding how many events, how many behaviors could we see during this month. So we really had a baseline to understand what would the impact of the system be after that. Then during the second month, we turned on in-cab coaching. So it means that the camera was telling the driver, hey, put down your phone, you're tailgating, do not drive as close as the vehicle in front of you. And then for the last 30 days, they started doing driver coaching face to face with a driver coach. And we're gonna have a look at the results afterwards, but you'll see it's very interesting. The other two things that I would like to say is, so they were really looking at resolving this safety and security problem. So resolving that by changing the safety culture, and that was their main objective. So they had the buyout from their management. So the management was really happy to see that happening. They were really pushing for this. They were sponsoring this, and they defined two sets of things that I would recommend anyone doing this to do that. So first, they defined some very clear objectives. So objectives that are clear, that everybody agrees with, and objectives that are easily measurable. So here you have some objectives. They also defined some success criteria for the different systems. So the success criteria for each system was actually defined. Here I've kept 4 points that you can read. But it's important to have success criteria, measure them regularly during a pilot and see where you are, if there are any fine tuning to be done. So we can go to the next slide and have a look at the impact of GoFocus Plus. So let's start with phone use. So phone use, as you know, is a plague, is really a big problem. So during the month of May, that's when they had their baseline calculation. So you can see the number of events per 1,000 miles. So it's actually quite high. So they had a pretty big problem with phone use. When we turn on audio alerts, you can see that it went down by a bit more than half. But then when you do audio alerts plus driver coaching, it really went down quite dramatically. Yeah. And really what we saw here is in-cab alert is important, right? But people need to understand that it's not only a machine telling you something. There's a whole process, there's a whole culture behind it, and you really have to change, and you really have to be part of that culture. And this human interaction with the driver is really what pushed that down. Yeah. But not only someone saying, hey, stop doing this. It's someone saying, hey, look, here's a video of you doing this and this and that. You know how dangerous that is. How can we improve? Why did you use this? Can we find a solution for you not using your phone? It was really this discussion that was very interesting, and that led to these results. Second thing is smoking. So they had also quite a lot of people smoking inside the vehicles with audio alerts, and went down by actually more than phone use, which is interesting. Mm-hmm. So when they started to have driver coaching on top of that, it went down and stayed down, except this outlier on the 20th of July. And, so when we discussed with them, what they told us is, they said, well, some new driver joined, and they have this onboarding system where they basically tell drivers, hey, tailgating is important and phone use is important and safety culture. But no one was actually saying anything about smoking. So these people, they came, they were like, okay, well, I'm driving, let's smoke a cigarette. And then straight away, they understood that they could not do that. It was not safe, yeah. It was not healthy. So, it went back the next week straight down. So that was quite interesting.
And probably a lesson learned for that fleet of, hey, we actually need to incorporate this into our onboarding programs to make sure we set those right expectations. So it's good data.
Exactly. The most spectacular, change was with tailgating, right? And tailgating is interesting because you can see the number of events per 1,000 miles. It was very high, right? And it was not that all the people driving were not driving too close on purpose. Some people, they were just not realizing what was the safe distance, because they tell you, hey, it's 1.5 seconds or 2 seconds. But for some people, it was not, or maybe they were forgetting after some time because they were focusing on other things. So here you can see just audio alerts, decreases tailgating massively. And then with driver coaching, it reduced that even further. But it was a very, very big success regarding tailgating. What was very interesting is during the first week, we set a tailgating rule of 2 seconds. And their drivers were really complaining about that. They were saying, hey, it's not realistic because we drive in this big city and da-da-da-da-da. So their management had a discussion, and they found an agreement on a lower value, which is safe for them. And what I can tell you about this is most of our customers, they never change the settings of our events and how events are being generated. But tailgating is an event which is significantly changed. Significantly, it's always like, it's a bit more, it's a bit less. And that's also a very interesting thing about your safety culture. You need to ask yourself, what am I trying to achieve? What do I believe is safe? What is working for my drivers in this particular part of the world? What is the vehicles that my drivers are driving? Is it a super big truck with some natural gas inside or some flammable liquid? Or is it just a normal car driving in Los Angeles? You have a lot of things that you need to work on. But with this, you have the tools to basically see and measure if you put in place some policies in your safety culture. Is it working? Is it not working? Is it accepted? Is it not accepted? And for me, measurement is the most important thing.
And you can customize that, which is fantastic because, again, you have so many variables in your fleet. So that's fantastic to make sure that is this truly aligning with what the needs are for our safety culture. That's great.
Yeah. And the last one is rolling stops. So our stumps went down also by quite a lot, and we're pretty happy about that. That was also something which, it depends if you're doing a rolling stop at 2 miles an hour or 30 miles an hour, so the impact is different. And that's something that our system that shows the severity of events is very important for, because if you go through an intersection at 30 miles an hour, you need to be coached on that. That can lead to some people dying. If you go through at 2 miles an hour, you might get a ticket, but might not be so bad. So for me, really, having a camera really helps. You can have a program. This program will basically help you have your driver being improve their behaviors. So you should share these videos with the driver, give them access. So the Geotab solution allows that. If you have another solution, try to make sure that they have access to this. Do not give them only the wag of the finger, but celebrate their progress, right? Some people might, come from very far. What is important is that they progress, they get better, and don't only tell them, just tell the whole company, hey, these 5 guys, they were there and now they are here, right? It's also important within your system that you do not only have events that are actually bad, but you have good events. And an example, and then you're probably going to have some other ones, but an example is something that we call false tailgating. So if someone cuts you off, right, you're going to have an unsafe distance. But if at this moment you slow down, you bring your vehicle back to a safe distance, right? That's great. You kept calm. Somebody cut you off. You might be angry about this, but no, you keep calm. Bring back the distance. Thumbs up. So it's really something that should be celebrated. And this fleet was also doing this. So when they saw this kind of events, they were just saying, well, that's great. It brings your score up. No, they were basically showing other people, look, this guy, he reacted well and he kept calm. And that's basically what fosters a safety culture.
That's great. So one of the questions that came into the chat, which you're teeing me up, Glenn, this is awesome. So he said, recognition for drivers moves the needle for tech adoption as well as retention and ongoing safety. What are our thoughts on recognition? And so I want to dive into this for sure. And I want to mention Geotab Vitality. But tell me, Claude, like, where are you seeing, okay, this is great. We have this technology, we're launching it, but how can I actually drive adoption? And what are some of those crucial steps that we have to take that they're just not generating the data, but actually using it and drivers are bought into this?
For sure. For me, the first thing is you need to make sure that you have leadership buy-in. Yeah. If your leadership is not on board with that, it's not going to work. But leadership should be there and should make sure that everybody is aware that this is important, right? The second thing is one of the reason why people might not be thrilled to have video inside vehicle is if you're not transparent about how the video and the system will be used. So you need to make sure that people understand how the video is used, who has access to it, when is it on, when is it off, and that's really the key. I can tell you a story. So in Europe, in Belgium, we have a customer that has the equivalent of a Class 8 truck in the US, and they have a cabin inside that truck, so with a bed and everything, so their drivers can actually sleep inside. And they have female drivers as well, and they have cameras, and they basically have decided with the owner of the company that they are happy to have a camera inside the cabin, but the camera is actually not on, doesn't generate video. It only checks if the driver is behaving properly. So if you use your phone, the camera will tell you, hey, put down the phone, it will generate an event, but the inside of the dash cam will never generate any video, any picture. You need to have trust with your boss and with the owner of the company as a driver to accept that, specifically if you have a bed and you're sleeping. And how did they build this trust? They say, well, guys, you have an app, you can have access to the camera of your truck on this app, and you can see exactly the same thing that I see, right?
Yes.
And that's exactly something that they did, and it works super well. And I think everybody is really happy today about how it works. The third thing I would say is engage your drivers early, right? Don't come and say, hey, here's a system, and that's it. Tell them, hey, the system is coming, we're going to be doing this. How do you feel about that? Do you have any concern, any questions, anything like that? Communicate transparently. Do not hide anything. Make sure that people understand what are the reasons for this system, how is it going to be used, what will be the threshold, what will be the rewards, what will be the penalties. You define the whole system. And celebrate people, right? The people that are doing well, tell them, hey, you're a great driver, you do well, excellent. I'm going to give you a bonus or something like this. I'm going to celebrate you across the company. If you have some really, really bad drivers that don't understand and are dangerous for other people, then you have to take some additional actions. But people understanding that you get rewarded by doing a good job, right? And everybody sees that is really powerful. So for me, these 5 things, they really define a safety culture, and it basically means that this will last and this will be successful in the long term.
Yeah, I love that. And something that we just launched, and I just pulled up my score so I could see where I'm at with Geotab Vitality. So if you're a Geotabber, we get access to Geotab Vitality. But this is something that we just launched as well, and it's a driver reward program. So it actually pulls all of this data in, and then we can see how well we're doing. So like for me, I'm at a bronze status. I've hit 213 out of my 510 this week. So I've got some ways to go. I have 4 days left in my rewards, but it's great because I can actually have a lot of different reward systems. I can do Amazon and Starbucks, which those of you who know me, that's a frequent place for me. I have all sorts of restaurants and shops that I can go and actually get a rewards program directly there that the fleet manager doesn't have to manage it. It manages itself. So if you guys are interested in our Geotab Vitality, definitely reach out, let me know, and happy to get you some more information on that because it's a brand new product. We're excited about it.
Yeah, it's safety gamified. It works super well.
Exactly, exactly. So it's wonderful. Let's talk a little bit about, and I mentioned it at the beginning of the call, about the silo of data. We see that a lot. And meaning, you might have telematics information here, you might have video information there, you might have a maintenance system over there that's important. We need to integrate all of that and stop having silos, and people need to have visibility to all of it. So Claude, can you talk a little bit about integration of AI for the entire Geotab telematics platform? How does that take fleets to the next level to really help them not only monitor what's happening but actually predict safety?
So for me, if you have different systems, it's going to be super difficult to keep them up to date. You will not have a single source of truth. It will be very complicated. With GoFocus Plus, with my Geotab, with all the systems that are together now, everything is integrated into one system. You don't have any issues of access control of one system and not the other. So everything is unified there. What is very interesting is you can use the camera for other things than just safety, right? So you can use that for telematics tasks to understand, if some people are having the right behavior regarding idling, regarding fuel efficiency, regarding certain things. We have people that are using cameras to check the loading bays of certain trucks. We have in some countries people that see some fuel theft, and if you can have a camera pointing down to, and GoFocus Plus has aux cameras even outside of the vehicle, that's an option. You can get that with it. So you can actually have a camera pointing at the fuel tank and see what's really happening with your fuel tank. So all those kind of things are very helpful from a fleet management and a telematics perspective. Um, Finally, all this data being generated are things that are very helpful within Geotab, because Geotab has a lot of data science tools. We have ACE and many other things. So you can use all this data to get insights on your fleet, and that's really really powerful.
So
Um,
yep, go ahead. Results and
yeah, sorry.
ROI. Let's talk a little bit.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a few numbers about results. So we spoke about this customer that we have in the US that did this pilot. So
Yeah.
that's very interesting, but that's basically one use case. So how does it work across the globe, across fleet? And here it's mostly North American numbers, but with different video systems and different things. So if you have a proper safety culture, what can you expect? So the literature is telling us that you will be reducing your accidents by more than half. So by accidents, I mean collisions, right? And that's actually not a small feat. Because you're going to be reducing your collisions, you're also going to be reducing the collision severity. So your claim cost will go down, and there are two reasons for that. So you reduce the severity of your crashes, but also you have video evidence when you have a crash. So
Yeah.
you might not have some kind of lawyers that are going after you just to extort money out of after
Yeah.
your fleet. So you have ways to protect yourself from that, right? So you're going to reduce issues with exonerations and things like this. And the last thing is, surprisingly, um, driver retention increases when you have a proper safety culture and when you have dash cams, because drivers, they feel that you trust them because they have a say inside how the system works. They have a say, and it's really fostering communication between drivers. You cannot say to your boss, hey, I was doing this but you were not doing that, and your boss cannot doubt of your integrity, right? Everything is there. So you have to be transparent, your boss has to be transparent, everything is clear, is open, and is fair, and that's really the most important thing. So it doesn't just save lives; it drives your operational efficiency, and it keeps your driver happy. So the last thing I wanted to say, different people here might say, "Oh, that's great. I've seen a lot of things, but where should I start? What should I do if I want to build a safety culture within my fleet?" So for me, is you need a baseline to start with. You need to understand where you are, right? So whether it's is a baseline by having cameras inside some parts of your fleet and understand what's really happening, or whether you already have some numbers that might not be as in depth as the numbers you could get with a camera, that's fine. Just get a solid baseline, understand where you're coming from. Then the second thing is pilot an AI dashcam system. If it's a Geotab system, that's super great. I'm going to be super happy. If it's another system, that's great too, right? It's going to make everybody safer. When you pilot a dashcam system in a fleet, you will select a certain number of vehicles. My advice is pick a set of vehicles and drivers that are very representative of your fleet. So we've seen people doing that on, average drivers, super safe drivers, and maverick drivers, right? And see how, the system is actually impacting those people and what is the result for these kind of people, right? That's really important. Then you want to measure improvements, and you need to track that. Be very thorough with this. Be open to the data. And then finally, once you basically design your safety culture, celebrate that, make some noise inside your company, and deploy that within your company. Make sure that all the stakeholders are happy and are involved. But push this, and you will see that you're going to make some lasting changes for other people, from your company, and for your costs.
I love that. That's very important. For anybody that's worked with Geotab or is a current customer, like we talk a lot about that crawl, walk, run approach, which is exactly this. And I just want to reiterate that, like as we've worked out and deployed some of these camera technologies across fleets, I think that first step, just what you mentioned, like you have to set your goals and you need to build that trust with the driver. So what does that look like? Are you doing a 30, 60 day, 90 plan? And how are you launching that? For the walk, just as an example, we worked with a customer and they built that foundation. And then the walk part for them was, now we're going to start turning on that data, just like you mentioned in that case study of, we're going to turn on these alerts, we're going to see how it goes, and then we're going to implement the driver coaching. But I think also such a big part of actually sustaining this type of safety culture, your entire leadership and your safety managers have to be the ones to practice what they preach, right? You have to follow your own guidelines. So if you have some very strict, three strikes and you're out kind of rule, but you're applying it to some drivers and not other drivers, that needs to be documented. And why? Because obviously if there's a situation for litigation, you could put yourself more at risk if you're not following those rules that you've set. So when you get through the crawl and the walk stage and you're ready to run, just make sure that all of those goals that you have are being looked at frequently, right? And then you're going back to it, just like that one fleet did, of saying, you know what, that tailgating was not really where we needed it to be. Let's extend it out. This is what we want to have as our standard, and then we'll move forward. So it's much easier to achieve those goals when you have a constant monitoring of it. So it's very important.
And from a management perspective, one thing you can do, and you say you need to preach, what you practice. I've seen many management, people within companies that actually install a dash cam inside their vehicle.
Yeah.
And they show the way and they say, well, I install a camera and you can see how I drive, and I'm sharing that with you, and that's perfectly fine. That helps a lot.
I think that's great. Fantastic advice. All right. So we have some time for some questions and answers. And so we've had a couple that have come in. One that says, this is a former GE employee, and they say, Claude, what are your thoughts on ADAS systems and the potential speed of change for a driver with systems taking over more of a driver task in the future? So I'll read that again. What are your thoughts on ADAS systems and the potential speed of change for a driver with systems taking over more of a driver task in the future? What do you think about that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. So first, hi, former colleague. Uh, yeah, that's very interesting. So it will have different impacts. So the first impact is as you go along, the level two. So as you know, you have 5 levels of autonomous driving. Level one is basically your cruise control. Level two is what you find in a standard car today. So that's lane assist, and distance keeping with the vehicle in front of you. Level three, the vehicle can be autonomous in some very specific parts, so it's geofenced. And here you're not responsible anymore as a driver. Level four is, the car drives itself all the time, but, you should be able to take over as a human within a specific amount of time if something happens. At level five, you don't have a steering wheel anymore, and, the car drives itself, and it's a robotaxi, more or less. So that's definitely coming. The question is, when will it be coming? So at the moment, you have different options and different technologies. Many people rely on HD maps. So that's why it works in certain parts of certain cities today, and it works pretty well when that's the case. We've seen that in certain cities like San Francisco, it can be difficult with local people that might vandalize vehicles or very specific things. But I think over time that's going to be resolved. That's going to be great for safety, to be honest with you. That's going to be great for traffic because vehicles will be able to drive closer to each other. So you will have less traffic jams. I think it's going to be bad for other people that have a vehicle that doesn't drive automatically or autonomously because insurance premiums are going to go up for them. And I think it's going to be, but that we are still like 5 or 10 years away from that. But I think what's going to happen, and that's happening today, is if you don't have a dash cam system that works well and a good safety culture within your company, your insurance premiums are going up already, right? So that's one of the major reasons some companies are contacting us. They say, hey, my insurance says that if I don't have this dash cam, if I don't have this program in place and I cannot document that and prove this, my premium is going to double or triple next year. So that's really important to have that in mind. So back to your question, yes, I think it's going to take more and more off the drivers, specifically if you are on the motorway for a long time. If you're a big truck, having an ADAS level 2 system, it helps keep you the right distance with the vehicle in front of you, stay in your lane. It helps avoid accidents. Within the Geotab, it's not really a dash cam thing. We can actually understand with the Go device, which is the Geotab telematic tracker, if a driver actually uses the ADAS system or not, when the vehicle is actually equipped for that, and that we can do that for most vehicles. So that's really interesting, and that's something that you can also consider in your safety culture. If your vehicles have that, you should encourage drivers to use that in certain situations where it makes sense.
Awesome. That's a great question. Here's another good question that came in. How have you integrated into an emergency vehicle fleet, such as a paramedic service? What differences should we consider?
Yeah, that's a good question. So yeah, we do have customers that are in the ambulance service. So we have two, I would say, issues with them. So the first one is privacy. So they want to have a cabin, they want to have a dash cam inside the cabin, but their ambulance has a big glass window so the drivers can actually see what's happening in the area where they treat the patient. But they could not show anything happening in there. So we have actually had to build some privacy covers, privacy masks to make sure that they could not see what's happening, or that anyone could not see what's happening. The second thing is speed. So speed is definitely a problem, and ABCs. So that's something that we can tweak within our system. We can change. Pretty soon, we're going to have a way to differentiate if the ambulance is in emergency mode with like your lights and sirens and everything, or if they are not. And with that, you can actually change certain thresholds regarding events or deactivate certain events? So that's actually a very good question, and that's quite important. Yeah.
Wonderful. All right. And I think that's all the questions that are coming in right now. So we will go ahead and wrap this up. And I just want to mention we have Geotab Connect coming up February 10th through the 12th, and that's going to be in Vegas. So if you haven't registered, make sure you go online, you get registered, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. My email address is emilywilliams@geotab.com. Happy to get you plugged in and get those resources required. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great day. Claude, thank you so much for your time and being such an amazing guest. This is wonderful.
And see you in Vegas.
See you in Vegas. Have a great one, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.